Welcome to the latest episode of the Claus Corner. Today's guest is a world-recognized singer and songwriter in the genres of rock, and hardcore punk. He is also an instrumentalist, live performance artist, producer, photographer, artist, and writer. His bands include Bad Brains, Common Thread, Uprising, and Fireburn. His solo work includes Ghetto Folk, Deeper Meaning, Rod of Iron, and Meltdown. So without further ado, please welcome the extremely talented Israel Joseph to the Claus Corner. Israel, how are you?
Hey, Rich. Thank you so much for that great intro. I'm doing well. How are you, man?
I am doing well. Well, I have to say, I think after this interview, I am officially the valedictorian of Sevenaria University.
Blessed. Oh man, I didn't even mean to read that, but that's great. That's awesome.
No, I love this. Like I said, I am learning so much just listening to you, having such a fun conversation with you.
Man. Yes.
What was that?
You are a valedictorian of Sevenaria. Yes.
Well, thank you. I wish I had a speech ready. I wasn't prepared for this.
Well, here's your award, and wear it well, son.
I will. Thank you.
Go forth and teach that it's not all that bad. Only some of it's bad, though. But it's not all that bad. Oh.
Yep. Well, you know what? I want to get back to the music for a little bit.
Get back to it.
I'm sure we're going to go down this rabbit hole again, and I'm all for it. So
I'll try to swerve away from rabbit holes, though. I will, but I may eventually go down one. But I'll do my best.
No, don't even try. Wherever the conversation goes, feel comfortable. Go down there because I'm going to go down there with you. So don't worry about that. A couple months ago, I had a guest. His name is David Ellison. He's a former bass player for Megadeth. What is your connection with Megadeth?
Well, Busking is a very influential leader in his field. He's written some of those progressions for Metallica and then for his own band Megadeth that is crushingly good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that his music is intense, it's otherworldly, but again, we go back to the social dynamics, and I think that's the only thing I would say about that I not by him or from him, but from those who are interpreting what's going on there. I don't know, I may be wrong in saying that, but Megadeth is crush, man. What are you gonna say? Mustaine, you are the man. You have written some serious progressions, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Need me to sing on a record? Just let me know.
No, I will personally say that Megadeth is way better than. I think Megadeth is way more talented than Metallica. That's just my opinion. I like the first three Metallica albums and the fourth one, Injustice for All. After that, I sort of gave up on them. But Megadeth is very consistent. Their music is always good, and I like a lot of the messages that he does. But you played with a former drummer of Megadeth.
Yes,
yeah,
that's what I was gonna say.
Oh, okay.
And so I played. Oh my God, help me, bro.
Nick Menza.
Nick Menza. My God, forgive me. You know, when you draw a blank, it's like a blank. You're never gonna get it until like an hour later or whatever. But of course, beloved bro of mine, man, we got to know each other and got real tight. I always have that connection. Like I'm always thankful for that. As a poor kid growing up, I met people I could make a good connection, and that was good because it substituted a lot for not having money and dough and stuff. So, you know, I had the same connection with Nick the minute I met him, man. I feel like a guy I grew up with on Long Island, but I never knew him. And I was in awe that he wanted me to, that he was knowing me, you know, that he knew me. I was like, you gotta be kidding me, man. You know who I am? He's like, yeah, man. So we got together, man, and we did an album with Dave from 25 to Life and someone else who I'm sorry who it was. I know who it wasn't. I'm forgetting the name, but it was so quick. All right, so I went over to Nick Menza's house. That's where we recorded. We got the demos from New York, and me and Nick in Nick's studio recorded my vocals on those demos. Now, Nick's studio was in his basement, and he had like a vocal booth that was like 5x5, or maybe 5x4. And the mic was stuck in there, and I did all the vocals on there and killed it. I was excited about that band. I was excited about meeting Nick Menza, and the fact we was kicking it was even better because were friends. And we did 3 sessions together where we hung out for the weekend at his crib, doing the music and getting it together. And we recorded a demo, and great songs, man. Song over there called "Jump the Walls." We gonna jump the walls. We gonna climb those walls.
Yeah.
We gonna jump the walls. It's like wow, like wow. The whole thing was like that kind of a voice, that kind of like I was in that mode, and I could scream, yeah, not like Meltdown. Meltdown I did in a place where I couldn't scream. That's the vocals.
Yeah.
I had to craft them in a way where I couldn't scream, but I could go for the Knicks, man. And oh man, and it was like breakdowns, like that kind of and great stuff happened. Ready to do it. Nick tells me, yeah, man, I'm going on a cruise this weekend, next weekend. So I won't be able to kick it, in the studio. And I'm like, wow, like he's going to play with people I knew. And I was like, wow, that's amazing, man. I have a, great time. And bro, we all know what happened on that cruise, man. He looks so healthy. He's healthy. He didn't do any drugs, man. I didn't see him doing any drugs.
Yeah.
Never, like, hey, get some coke, like, nah, I don't do that. None of that kind of.
Wow.
Just a straight dude. Had his girlfriend there with him. She seemed like a really nice person. When we recorded that demo, it never saw the light of day. I still have the recordings on my Gmail because sent the Gmail back and forth. I still have the MP3s, but I don't think it'll ever see the light of day. It was never mixed, and his equipment, I don't know where it is now. So,
I would love to hear that.
It's dope, man. We got 5 dope songs of like crazy stuff that was just sounding like some kind of hardcore meets grunge, bro.
Now, did he know you from the Bad Brains or from something else?
Brains. He knew me from Brains because I hadn't done Fireburn and I hadn't done
Yeah.
any other. All right, so just coming up after Bad Brains now. So after Bad Brains, I decided that I wanted nothing to do with the business of music. I felt like I was cheated. I felt like, I'm gonna switch locations, people.
Yeah.
You need to plug your phone in because your battery goes down. So we're gonna switch it up, baby.
It usually happens after 3.5 hours of talking.
There you go. And I'm surprised it lasted that long. My God. All right. Can I set it here? Excuse me, people. I don't mean to interrupt the whole vibration.
Nah, not at all.
Yeah, baby. We just want to rock and roll with Jimi Hendrix in the back.
Oh, I see that.
Bob Marley, baby.
Two of the greats.
So after that foray into the business, I figured I went all the way to the top, man. When you're standing with Tommy Mottola at a swimming pool and he's telling you he likes his album, you're at the top. Dealing with a party that people are walking around Boca Raton 2 years in a row, that you're like, yo, these are the biggest stars in the world, you're at the top. But I didn't get paid like I was at the top. So I decided, man, that hurt. Because what in effect happened at that moment, now I see that it was not what happened, that something bigger happened and the album had an effect on the right people. And it actually helped cause a lot of change in society. But what had happened to me personally was that I got screwed. At that moment, that's how I felt. I felt like I got taken advantage of. My art got taken, my heart got taken, my soul, my creative, good, impulse, pure energy that I was giving away for free suddenly had some kind of value that it never had before. And that confused me. I was like, wait a minute. Like, we're not just all in this having fun. Like, this is not just, I was kind of naive. I grew up sheltered. I told you I was like, when we were in Trinidad, we were well to do. So I was kind of a naive, sheltered, rich kid. Not rich, middle class kid in a Trinidad, I wasn't rich, but my mom was working a good job. Then we came to America and I suddenly became abject, like no money in the hood. So then I had that life for most of my life. So I developed a mentality in that time that you're not gonna take me. You understand? You're not gonna play me, man. Because I had a chip on my shoulder coming from Trinidad. Like, you're not gonna play me out because I come from Trinidad. You're gonna play me out because I'm poor. I had that kind of chip, I will admit. And after the foray into that kind of thing, I felt like that had happened. Like I got played on the biggest levels. Played on stuff I should have known about as a dude that came out of hip hop too, that I knew about. As a dude that knew about Chuck Berry, as a dude that knew about all black musicians that got played for their money and never made it or got cut out. And Chuck Berry ended up driving around America in a '57 Chevy trying to pay off his taxes. You know what I mean? I heard that as a 12-year-old kid. It was a horrific image in my brain that never left my brain for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? I never saw it. I never saw any pictures of it, but I have this image of Chuck Berry in a '57 Chevy driving around America, going from gig to gig, trying to pay some shit that he shouldn't even have to pay in the first place because he's an American hero. Mm-hmm. He is America. How the fuck are you gonna pay taxes? I mean, yes, okay, but you're gonna persecute him for paying taxes? Okay, the man didn't pay taxes. All right, call it even and help him to pay his future taxes. The image never left, but the same kind of things happened to me, and so I got really mad, bro. Yeah. Fist stomping, foot stomping, fist pounding mad, bro. That the industry that I walked away with no money because I was supposed to be like everyone else and parlay it into greater things, and I wasn't negative rap, and I wasn't this personalized, sad music from the grunge scene. I wasn't singing about people on heroin. And I really thought that would help me, but it hindered at that time the whole thing. And it actually made the uppers who I talked about before turn against it because it wasn't enough of their image of the temporary, the dying rock god, the drunk, drugged out, dying rock god that's got a lot of problems, that's, on the edge of trouble. I didn't project any of that, right? I came like Rasta, I came clean, I came talking sensibly, I didn't drink, so they were like, what are you doing here? And I was understanding that, but hey, a lot of musicians were like that before me, but they weren't brown, were they? They weren't looking like me. Yeah. So it's hard to accept this from me. Okay. So after that happened, I walked away from the business. I didn't want anything to do with signing anything or being beholden to any structure. And I completely rejected structure. And I became a dude who tried to revitalize my rap career that I had before Bad Brains, and my reggae bands, but people died. People were in jail. People weren't doing it anymore. People weren't able to do it anymore. People were older and I was still on fire. A lot of things happened. Then brother from um, Thick of It All
Mm-hmm.
called me to do a band called Reach, which was amazing experience. And at that point, I tried to sing some vocals other than hardcore. I tried to do the grunge thing. And I'll admit that I tried it for, well, why not? I don't have any other way to try it, right? I mean, I'm not going to try it and not have feedback. So it's going to fail. That's how I am. I'm not a dude that likes to like like, like develop a whole lot of, it's not contrived. I'm all about spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And at the moment, I was like, I'm gonna try this grunge thing because that's how they were playing. So I was like, I'm gonna try to sing like maybe I'll get somewhere with this. Maybe they'll like this. But I'm saying the same thing. I didn't sell out, just different way to deliver.
No,
But that
exactly.
didn't right. But that didn't work out either. And after that, I just went kind of nuts. I didn't get on drugs or anything. Didn't start drinking, but I did. Uh, I think looking back on it, I think I did have a break with reality. I uh, I had a psychological break with reality. I completely uh, absorbed myself into the Rastafarian religion. I listened to old reggae with the Rasta lyrics, like uh, not like reggae and rock steady, not dancehall, bro, not new record. I some reggae and rock steady, the old stuff, 24/7. Um, I just got so deep into it, and that still lasts till today. I still have some CDs from those days, but I at that point had checked out. Something happened to me. I was unrecognizable. My brothers never got along with me too much, but at that point, the relationship broke, man. Everything broke. My friends, I just became this person who was so unsure of themselves and who they were and what they were doing. Even before I became a Rastaman, I was worse than that. It was the worst feeling. I was lost. I couldn't get a job. I used to be able to get a job before Bad Brains easily, and I couldn't get work. No matter what I did, and that started troubling me. I started feeling like people were stopping me from getting work, like there was this organization. I started getting paranoid.
Yeah.
Most people don't know that, and I spent the late '90s uh, partying a lot without getting high and drunk, but smoking a lot of weed and going out and partying and trying to ignore life and listening to a lot of reggae and absorbing myself as deeply as I could into the Rastafarian faith, which is what I feel like I felt at that point in my mind. I had forsaken it, that I had done something wrong with the Bad Brains, that I had gone astray and I had to get back on the path. That's what I was thinking.
I have a question for you regarding that. What about Daryl and Doc and Earl? Did they have your back when you said, I'm not getting paid for what I'm worth? Or did they just say, you know what, maybe it's not going to work out?
I love Daryl and I love Doc and I love them till this day, and I love Mackie and Chuck, and I love them no matter what goes on, no matter how private our lives become and all. I love them. But they couldn't help me much because man ultimately in control of money, you understand? So I had to deal with management. They're under a management contract as well. And I'm not saying anything slanderous about the management. I'm not saying the management did anything or didn't do anything. I didn't receive any answers when I went.
Yeah.
So this is not something they could turn around and be like, yo, give my man some answers. They can't, as much as that's my best Doc impression. Yo, G, got to give my man some answers, bro. Like,
you really do great impressions. I have to say that.
I love it. That's because I grew up looking at comedians as a child, like Rich Little
Yes.
Yeah, man. And the guy used to come on Johnny Carson, Jonathan Winters. And
oh my God, he was great.
I loved those guys as a kid. Me and my older brother, boy, we would laugh. We'd sometimes stay up till 11 just to laugh at these guys. It's silliness. It's the silliness, you know?
Yes.
It's silliness. It's just being able to go into silly mode. But I like to go into silly mode with about serious topics because it lightens the load of that topic. I had to think that way as a kid because as a poor kid, that's how you laugh or you cry. And it just turned into a life of that's part of my personality. I crack jokes a lot. Like I said, it's Eddie Murphy. So I grew up with that because there was only if laughter was prized possession. When you have no money, laughter is a prized possession. If you can laugh and get that belly laugh or that little tear coming, or you get that laugh where you can't get a breath, you're trying to your stomach's like stop. You're like, I'm trying to get that breath. That's so funny. It's just healing, and we value that. And I still value when I crack jokes and I see people laugh, and I just thank God. I'm like, wow, they got that. It's good. Take that. So I know it's healing. I know it's healing. I know laughter is healing. It's part of the healing ritual. Even at Sevenaria, we're gonna have topics about laughter and how it's healing for the body. It's physically healing. It jerks the body. It also gives the body endorphins. It releases chemicals. It releases healing properties. Anyway, laughter, is something I dealt with as a kid. As I said, I grew up with these comedians. But yeah, so Doc and Daryl could not really step in between this issue.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that.
And you have to understand that, right? This is like, dude, first of all, we've known this guy since we was 15 years old. Second of all, we're on a management contract. Third of all, you're new in the game. Second of all, we love you, but dude, you gotta handle this. Go to Tony yourself, And so I did, but there's just lines of communications that weren't right. And so that's the story with that. And so I got really frustrated with that because I felt like, man, I thought we was family. You know what I mean? I thought we was fam. And it's like, there's no fam in money, man. It's lawyers.
Unfortunately.
Wow. So I was like, how am I going to get a lawyer if I got no money? It's like a catch-22. So I just frustrating. I'm out of here. There's another game where they took the poor guy again. Here we go. Poor guy suffers, and I got a complex from that. Seriously, poor guy suffers the victim mentality. I have to fight against that all the time. There's a poor kid, always his whole life will have to fight against the victim and the poor mentality. Always, he really does because you spend so much time dealing with it when you're a kid that you don't realize that it may not actually be happening. So I'm always aware of it. I try not to live it. But I did get that big time in the 90s. Look, there's a period before you learn and after you learn, right? And this is before I learned. And I took that on like crazy, bro. It was like, after a while, like I was so ashamed of who, I thought people thought the worst of me. I thought I'm a good person, but I'm so misunderstood that my brothers and my friends don't want to see me, and the fans of the Brains, they think I'm the worst person that ever existed. And that made me feel like, wow, I never meant to do that. I didn't mean that. Not knowing that wasn't the case, there were many other parameters. But at that point, that's all I had, and I ran away a lot from who I was. I kept Rastafari, still doing that, and still a Nazarene. Last year I shaved my head. People don't know I went through health problems and my hair fell out. I still always wore cap, but even Fireburn, people don't know what's happening with me with cancer and all that. They don't know because I don't talk about it. But I'm a survivor. They don't understand I'm a survivor. But after that happened, I walked away and I started staying in my bedroom like I was when I was 16, and I was listening to a lot of music. I was buying music. Man, I bought more music in that time than I ever did. I think I schooled myself more than I did before Bad Brains with records. That's how I learned music. I never studied music. I don't know how to read music. I never went to a music teacher music class. with the exception of maybe 3 times of twice going to something with the brains and then once having a guitar teacher as a kid. So I taught myself music by listening to others doing it and then interpreting it myself. And in that era, I did a lot of that where I spent a lot of times in headphones or listening to music and writing my own, more of my own music. But I was broke. I couldn't get a job. So I decided I was going to go live in Jamaica. I was going to die. I was going to die. I was like, I'm going to die because I'm going to be homeless because I have no place to live. And I'm going to freeze in the New York streets. And no one's reaching out to help me. That was another thing that bothered me. No one I knew on all those tours and all those bands and all those people and thousands, millions of people, no one reached out. No one said, hey, how you doing? Like, I didn't hear from them. And that shit hurt, man. And so I was very confused. And so I didn't have a job. I got to the point where I was doing things like, collecting cans and like I wouldn't sell drugs. I was trying to do things that were clean. I was a Rastaman and I always believed something else is coming. I lived my life like that, man. There was something on the horizon. I still live like that today. But I lived like that then too. And I remembered, you keep eating right, you keep thinking right, you keep doing right. Don't do something is gonna come, it's gonna come back around and you're gonna be ready for it. And that's how I am because I'm poor. I don't take nothing for granted. I grew up poor, but that's how I am. And I'm ready. When the opportunity comes, I'm going to seize. I'm a carpe diem and pray because I'm not that great. So I'm going to pray that it comes out good.
Yeah.
But at that point, I was walking away and I didn't want none of that. I said, I'm going to run away from all of it. The more closer it came, the more I ran and the more I didn't want to do music. And the more I'm in the clubs just dancing and, going to reggae clubs and girls, a lot of women. And, oh, man, I was like, help, I was like, what happened with the Bad Brains? What happened with all that? I couldn't understand. I wouldn't listen to Rise. I wouldn't even allow it to be played in my presence, man. I wouldn't listen to it. And I ran and ran and ran. And then I got so broke, I thought I'm gonna be poor and I'm gonna die in the cold. So I went to Jamaica to try and live. And I had about $200 to my name and the plane ticket. And I got there with a backpack on my back. And I ended up being taken into the hills with a bunch of Rasta men. But 2 weeks later, a man come up there here and I was there and tried to rob me. He tried to cut my belly, take my money. And I had to get out of there and come back. And so I almost lost my life there. And then when I came back, I was still in the same situation. And I came back to live with my mom. And it was seriously like depressing because here I am now 29, 30 years old. And my mom Xing Bad Brains, my brother's going, weren't you? And like my friends going, what happened, Job? It's like in the Bible, like Job, don't you want a man, Job? Looking pretty bummy now. My literally saying that kind of stuff to me. And I was just like, man, I gotta get out of here. I can't take it. It's gonna kill me. Like I'm so all I need is a place to rest so I can soak up 20 years. I was saying this earlier to write Rise, to 20 years, man. I need to soak up for at least 5 years life so I can write another great record, And I won't need 20 years this time, but no one would give me a rest station. Not my family, not my friends, no one, bro. But it was for a reason. God was doing this. Jah was doing the universe. The mind was doing this to me because it had a plan. The plan was to send me to California.
Yeah.
New York trip was done. So I finally got the message of the vision when I was a kid. I saw the cartoon Tom and Jerry early in the morning one morning, and something stuck in my head where the man pointed across the cartoon map of America and he said, "Go west, young man." And the little black figure started marching west. And I was like, wow, that's a trip. I was a trippy kid, man. I'm a trip. Like, I think like I was born with psilocybin in my brain, bro. My mother must have like eaten a mushroom by mistake when I was born. I was like, wow, that image never left my brain. So when I decided to go to California, that's what came right back. I was like, it's destiny. So like I like marched out, like I took the bus. I took a 3-day trip, bro. It was totally trippy, bro. I went through all the desert, bro. I saw it all, bro. And then like I got to Cali and I was like, okay, I'm here to be a bum. I'm here to live on the beach. I'm gonna do like these California dudes, and that's gonna be the rest of my life. Just like I messed up, something happened, and I don't know what happened, but I'm here now, and I'm just gonna try and figure it out. I was much looser back then. I can't believe I did this stuff. Like I would go stay with strangers, and like I could have been killed. I would never do that today. Like rock and rolling is crazy, bro. When you're in that spirit, it's like you're impervious. But now I think, my God, that's nuts. Why? How could I have survived that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got there and I stayed in the hostel, bro. Then I got a little job working at a jewelry store. And that was a surprise because the guy hired me. I was like, whoa. So, and then I was selling like hotcakes. And I started getting paid really well. And he said, dude, you're making commission. You're selling better than any salesman I've had. Well, I've been selling in the 80s. And so I worked on the 3rd Street Promenade in Los Angeles, in Santa Monica. And there were musicians on the promenade busking. And now in New York, except if you go on the subway, you really don't see busking. There's not that much of that going on in the streets. You know what I mean? And if you do see it, the person's like, that's kind of crazy. You know what I mean? Like you're just sitting there playing guitar, dude. In the subways, you see that stuff. Nowadays, it might be different. Keep in mind, I haven't been in New York 22 years. When I was growing up, there's no busking in the streets. What is that? That's like a special occasion. So like when 3rd Street Promenade is happening all day. So I was like, yo, some of these people are really good, but some of these people are really bad. And they're doing it and they don't care. And at that point, I was like, getting better on my guitar. So I said, one day I'm going to bring my guitar to work. And after work, I'm going to come here and sit down and play guitar because I enjoy singing to myself. Before Brains, I enjoy singing. And I sang my Bob Marley's just like I did at the Uprising Band before Bad Brains and my reggae songs, man. And there I was. I didn't have a mic at the time, but I have a very loud voice. So there I was singing, and I would sing Bob Marley and to the top of my lungs. Bob Marley has really high notes.
Oh, yeah.
And hard notes. And you got to be able to pin them down. Preacher man, don't tell me heaven is under the earth. I know you don't know what life is really worth. It's not all that glitters is gold. Half the story I've never been told. You gotta hit all those shiny parts. You can't sing Bob without going shiny parts. So I'm singing that stuff and I have my eyes closed. And I open my eyes, people are lined up, bro. And dancing, and putting tips.
Wow.
And this kept going and going, and I kept showing up, and suddenly I was able to leave the job I was on.
Wow.
Cut it back part-time and just leave it. Like, I'm chilling, man. Making more money than I did per week on this job. And people having a genuine good time. I got regulars coming up, Israel, hey, can you sing Soldier? And they got their kid in a little dress and she's below Soldier. And they're like, and I'm singing like a real Rasta, I'm not commercializing it.
Yeah.
Some people are out there singing, Somewhere Over the Rainbow and really singing it. Some people singing show tunes, bro.
Yeah.
From dirty Rastaman music, but with in key and with a good voice. I have to do this. I have to rep great. So I'm rugged. And people are enjoying it. So I'm not selling out. And this is great for me. So I'm like, okay, God, I found a niche. I'm singing, and one of these sessions at 2:00 in the afternoon, maybe 1:30 around there, because it's like 2 to 12, 12 to 2, blah, blah, blah. I open my eyes, and this is 2003, 4. Norwood Fisher of Fishbone, the bass player from Fishbone, is standing in the audience with a big smile on his face. And it was 12, 13 years since we've seen each other. And, during the Bad Brains is another historical thing for y'all. Because, a brother started Black Rock. A brother started the what's the black punk thing now?
I'm not sure what it's called now.
What is it, man? It's called
It's I'm not really sure.
Afro-punk. Afro-punk.
Oh, yeah. I did hear that term before.
Before there was an Afro-punk in the 80s, there was a Black Rock Coalition. That's because literally what we were talking about before, black acts were not getting booked.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a union formed called the Black Rock Coalition. And it was either pioneered or started by Vernon Reid. And yes, in the 80s. And he personally brought me into the Black Rock Coalition through Andre LaSalle, who's the guitar player I brought to Uprising, where I told you I brought my friend to play Uprising, who was in No ID, a black funk rock band with amazing lyrics. He was talking about all the politics from the black perspective in that band. And this was like 87. And so Andre was, if Vernon Reid was dope, in fact, Vernon Reid and Andre play together now in a Jimi Hendrix tribute band. If you look at that band, the light-skinned dude with the hat on, that's Andre LaSalle. That's my old guitar player from Uprising. He used to have big dreadlocks back then. So Andre introduced me to Vernon, and Vernon was like, "You got to be in the Black Rock Coalition, because you need to be in the union, basically." So I joined that. So I was down with BRC since the days, man. When I met Bad Brains, they didn't know nothing about BRC. Or they knew about it, but maybe they didn't know about it. They weren't down. So that was a surprise to me, because back then it was still like black-white musician type things going on because of the racism. Today, people, I'm not talking about today. Y'all living in a different world than Brother Israel grew up in. Keep that in mind. I'm talking about the days when it was straight up bigotry, but getting better. Not like the 50s where they were hanging people, but straight up, hey, one side, the other side. So there was the BRC. And when I got there, I didn't realize, so there's a quick side story. The first tour that Fishbone and Bad Brains and Living Color ever did together, yours truly organized that. Because I said to Daryl one day, I was like, Fishbone. He's like, I don't know nothing about Fishbone. I'm like, you don't know about Fishbone. I was like, what's up? I was like, Fishbone is the dopest. So I was like, yo, bro, and HR is the dopest. But right now, this second, in this moment of time, Angelo Moore is the heights of any frontman in this moment in time. He's the best out there. Fishbone is the baddest band.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but when we met them, they were kids, man, out in LA. Some kids, man, like 15, 16 years old. I said, man, they grew a lot, bro. He was like, yeah, I know. I saw them on MTV with Freddie's Dead and stuff. I was like, y'all never play. I was like, when was the last time y'all played together? It's like, yo, we never played together, bro. I mean, can you imagine me and everything I told you of what I was involved in, my mentality at the time? I was just like, what? Yo, the two of the greatest black bands, black rock bands, never played together a show. And that goes true for Living Color and y'all too, huh? Mm-hmm. I was like, guess what? This is coming to an end this year.
All right. You make things happen. I like that.
I went right to Anthony County. I was like, Tony, we got to do this. And this is what I told him. I said, we're going to do this. We're going to put this tour together. We call them up, management, whatever we got to do. We already on the same label, right? Columbia and Epic are the same under Sony. So Fishbone, Living Color, and Bad Brains were all good, right? So make it happen. And the first tour we did was 3 weeks in Europe, which was great. And we ended up doing more weeks in America. And there was no Afro rock, man.
Yep.
And all of those plans that I was speaking of that probably got me in so much trouble with people I didn't realize that I thought would have been like abolitionist types. Like, yeah, let's push this agenda of equalizing it from a racial standpoint. They weren't down with that. but I ignorantly talked that way and may have exposed myself on these levels to them, not knowing they weren't down with that. But anyway, it happened. And I said, look, we should bring rock music to Black colleges and Black schools, and to introduce the fact that Black people not only started rock and roll, not exclusively, because of course you had rock and roll is a mix of Irish and blues and Black rockabilly, and rockabilly white folks took to and liked it, and that is because that link is the puzzle link to the hill music the white folks were singing up in places like the Appalachians and stuff like that. And the rockabilly and that music was close cousins, but the blues and the Irish chord progressions and it was a Black thing that was going on. And so Black people through rock, what they used to call R&B, which was rhythm and blues, and created rock and roll. But rockabilly and the Appalachian music was also there. That's why you have bands like the Comets and Bill Haley's Comets.
Yep.
1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock, 5, 6, 7 o'clock.
That's rock. Yep.
Bad and funky and well rock around. Hey, I mean, come on. How you know that's funky? It's like funk soul, but those are all white band. That's because hillbilly music was also funky.
Yeah.
Something about the Irish, bro. The Irish got funk, soul, they got rhythm. They understand something about clogging. And clogging, you need to understand where the downbeat is in clogging. And I think that Irish playing guitar and that affected Black people a lot because it had a pulse. It had a pulse. And I think that people of African descent are predisposed to pulse, to repetitive. People of the ancient world's descent, not of the new world of Europe, are predisposed to circular sounds, to music that goes in a rhythmic pattern, as opposed to music that goes in a linear line. But at some point, those two were combined, and it became rock and roll. Music that went in a linear line, but had a circular pattern sound to it. In other words, there was a beginning and an end. There wasn't just a cycle, and for hours, it wasn't like that. Or it wasn't, we'll go all the way, it wasn't all that. It was something in between that, both of them. That is what happened. So that relies a lot on. So I was saying to them all of this in the 90s, because I've known all this stuff this part of it since the 90s. So I was like, look, Black people need to see the Bad Brains. We can't, the fact that we play in front of all white audiences is a blessing from heaven, but isn't it a little peculiar in the sense that there are hardly any Blacks in the audience, like enjoying something that may not be currently what Black people are playing predominantly, but used to be, like, it's like, for me, I felt like there should be a reintroduction, right? So that was my plan, to reintroduce rock and roll. And that is when the end started happening, bro. That's when the end, that was like 2 years into it, that's when the end started going like the flames started going down. I think that really was like, wait a minute, that ain't in the picture, like, can't come here with all that shit. And I think that, I don't know, man, I was a funny dude, man. I was at that point, and I said, I'm so full of love, but I'm so full of self-love that when I don't see people that look like myself being treated right, but then everyone's saying, hey, just accept it and love, I feel like that's not right. That's got to be fixed. Because for me to accept it and love means I have to accept brutality. For me to be peaceful, it's all good, man. That means I have to accept the crap. That means I have to accept the Ahmaud Arbery's. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean,
you shouldn't have to accept it.
that means I have to go, hey, man, not squeaky shooting, man. You know, should have been walking, shouldn't we? I mean,
Yeah.
we think we are. We can walk, we can jog. Come on, jogging is the white man's game, bro. Learn it. How crazy would that sound? You know what I mean? That's crazy, bro. So like, I can't do that. I have to at some point go, hey, man, this is what I'm experiencing. I'm not white. See, like my skin, and this is how it feels. Majority musicians, and I know you already know because you know what this game is. You know it comes from Robert Johnson. You know it's all black blue guys, right? Rolling Stones will tell you, listen, man, we listen to the black bluesmen from America, and we've got black blues guys on our radio stations, and we imitated the black blues guys. You hear them saying that.
Oh, yeah, well, I said that earlier in the interview. I said all these people that are racist who like these other musicians probably don't even realize that these musicians they idolize are heavily influenced by black musicians, and they got most of their ideas from those musicians. So it's racism is just so stupid and so ignorant.
Especially the Nazi guys playing rock and roll, screaming
yes,
white power, right? But they're playing rhythmic rock and roll. It's like, dude, play classical music and then sing that shit. Play dun 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 dun, like white power. Do that, man. Okay, cool. But don't play black music and sing white power. It's crazy. Dude. Wake up. I'm being funny, of course. I'm being comedic.
Yes.
Guys, relax. I'm being comedic. I'm not on those pills. Okay, my emotions aren't. All right, I'm still funny like the 20th century. But listen, this is the key. That's so true. That black music, the white guys who created the idea of rock and roll, like Led Zeppelin, baby, I want to rock, and he's cock rocking, or like Mick Jagger, he's jumping around. Those guys will tell you in an interview, we listen to black guys. Straight up, they will go on tour with black people. They have never stopped taking that black blues player, Buddy Guy, out with them.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I mean, every year they took him on tour. Like, yo, I've heard them say in interviews, we like black Americans and we can't understand why Americans don't like the black American music, okay? So they took it on for themselves. They literally have said that in interviews. They saw an opportunity that we missed. They felt like white guys should have been like on it like them, but because of the racial hatred, they missed an opportunity. So they said, we're gonna take it. And these guys are great and we don't handle racism feeling like that. And that's why they took Jimi Hendrix. They were like, here goes another one of your black people that you don't want. Got him playing down in the Bowery, down in the Greenwich Villages next door to the Bowery Cafe. Why? We got to take him back to England. And Jimmy was mad at that. Jimmy was mad he had to leave America to go to England to make it. So a lot of black people did. A lot of jazz people had to go to France. A lot of people had to go to Europe to make it because Europe wasn't really tripping like that back then. After 2008, Europe started tripping about race. But back then, Europe wasn't tripping. Black soldiers helped liberate Europe. They were like, yo, dude, y'all help liberate this place. Come make your home here, bro. France, black soldiers fought and died in France. They fought and died in these places, in Germany, in these places. They died, black people from America. And some of them survived and they were not atrocious and ugly beings. They were good people. So you got black people there today that will form service. So, the idea that black people music was not respected hurt a lot because now you have black people like myself who, when I was young, I was ignorant and I rebelled against the old music thinking that it was sold out, that hip hop was really black and that the music that rock and roll and all that was black, but now it's white guys' music. Like that's white people music. Like that rock, that's literally the old prism, right?
Mhm.
And so it stunted the growth of a person like myself that should have been just like. But I quickly found out as a teen that there were artists like Prince and the Bad Brains, and so it's like okay, well then it's not that bad. There are artists still doing it, but then the holistic view of it was, but they're doing it on the underground, and Prince has to dress like a girl in order to do it. If you want to do it above ground, you got to put on some panties. If you want to do it above ground, you got to act like a gangster.
Yeah.
So you can't do it above ground as the god. You can't do it above ground as the educated, like, enlightened one, bringing the real, let's change the world music. But then again, no one that's like in the white rock and roll is doing that really either. I mean, Led Zeppelin was all about what, girls, and like it was about like some like mystical stuff at times. It was blues. A lot of it was blues. Their whole first album, I think they got sued for because they played all blues covers and they didn't give any of these people credit for. But no one knows that. They think, oh, they write the greatest songs.
Mhm.
But it's like, dude, they didn't write those songs. Okay, they played them over the cover songs. Like same thing with same thing with the other bands from England. In the late '60s, a lot of that stuff in their formative years was cover songs where people didn't know the black blues artists because of racism, so they thought, oh, they wrote this song, and they would get their credit from that. But that's kind of crazy. Like the Doors covered Backdoor Man. Nobody knew the real version of that until the '70s. Like, no, the real version is Howlin' Wolf, man. I'm your back dog, man. Nobody knew the real version of it. They thought the Doors wrote that shit. What? Ah, man. Yeah, baby. I'm your back dog, man. See, he took it to another level. See, that's what
Yeah.
used to happen. Howlin' Wolf is you my young chicken and yo young bees. I eat more chicken and it's bad as back to home, man. That's how he did it. But Jim Morrison is you man eat your chicken and your pork and beans. I eat more chicken. So he's
Yeah.
more. You see what happens? It's the voice of not the black man. You see, if Elvis, Big Mama Thornton said, "You ain't nothing but a hound dog," Elvis said, "You ain't nothing but a hound dog." That's fine. That's fine. So there's something going on in that level where it's the blacks are coming up with stuff because of the pain and the suffering. And at that time, the white musicians said, well, if you ain't going to get noticed for this, I'll take it and I'll use it. And from that came what we know as rock and roll, heavy metal, because people say Black Sabbath created metal. No, Jimi Hendrix created metal. You just have to listen to the right songs from Jimi Hendrix, like
Mhm.
In From the Storm. I just came back, baby. Just came back from the storm. That was 1968. That's totally
Mhm.
metal. That's a
Yep.
total song. That's total Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath would be nothing without that kind of thing going on from Jimmy. Also, Jimmy created punk when he wrote Stepping Stone. I'm a man, at least I'm trying to be. You're a woman, at least you say you are. I'm rolling, feeling fine, stepping stone. And it's that beat. I'm a man, at least I'm trying to be. It's totally like, it's total. So you had, and so you have this group of people that I am included in that is through rejection, through a sense of not self-worth, but trying to create a sense of self-worth, creating this type of stuff. And then, they don't end up with the credit. So young blacks at the time like me were like, oh, our ancestors got taken. They were fools. They gave away that music. Hip hop is going to be a music that keeping its direction on its focus on giving something to the Black community that's a product. I'm speaking to you how I used to think in the old days, not how I think now. I'm trying to make that clarification with people, okay? But I grew up in a different time. I keep saying this over and over again. But at that point, I felt, and a lot of people felt, that hip hop was going to give the Black community a product of sorts that everyone could participate in, but would be very hard to duplicate, which means it would be worth money to those who could do it. And that it would somehow save by educating through educated lyrics, somehow become the newspaper and the historians of this struggle to liberate this struggle. So like a bunch of Martin Luther King's and Malcolm X's on music as opposed to going around and speaking at the podium. That's what we thought hip hop was gonna do. That's why Africa Bambaataa was dressed as an Egyptian. That's why, KRS-One was talking about the sciences, God, on and on, man. Public Enemy, Eric B. and Rakim. We thought it was going to be the musical journey to wake up the sleeping masses, like in The Matrix, like the movie The Matrix. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't about race. It was just about predominance. It was about majority. And the majority of people that seemed to be ignorant and without at the time happened to look this way, happened to look like me and darker. It wasn't about race, because there was a small majority, and if you look at it, a vast majority of people who did not have visible amounts of melanin that were ignorant, because of this is part of ignorance that created the system. But we can't change that, because we at the time felt we don't belong to that community. And for us to go into that community, try to change that would be obscene, because not knowing the ways of that community and not knowing the reasons behind that, that's obscene. And think of all of this knowledge a Black kid has to think, man. Like, do kids in society have to think about this? I mean, this is nuts. Why should this have to think? Because I grew up like this, and it was a treacherous world. I saw it in real life, and I saw it on TV and in the news, and I saw it whether it was real or not. Maybe it was a whole, but whatever it was, we were facing it, because it definitely felt real when you walked into a store and you were being followed and no one else was being followed. They were doing the stealing. Okay, so it felt real at that point. Yeah. So it was real when you looked at South Africa and you were like, yo, look at that. It was real when you looked down south, and there's people. It was real when you looked at Bensonhurst and dudes getting dragged behind a car for coming into Bensonhurst, dragged behind a car. It's real. So it was real. And so we really thought that hip hop was going to do it. But then again, it happened again that some people that may look like they come out of this situation don't really have care for this situation. And they're like, yo, fuck that old shit, in other words, so to speak. I'm here to get money. And that is a transcendent of all the races and all the peoples. There are people like that in any type of thing. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, those people populated this thing, and it got taken away from its original course, which was to awaken all of America to a new understanding about humanity through the words we were speaking. like prophets on the mic, like teachers on the mic. That's why I'm a teacher now. I've always been like a teacher. I've always been talking when I'm talking to you, even before having knowledge of self. I just always been interested in interesting things and in being interested in what's going on and trying to talk about it and trying to get others to talk about it. And part of that is race because I can't help it because I'm born black. Maybe if I always said this to myself, if I was born white, how different would my life have been? If I was born of European descent, who would I have been? I probably would have been someone completely with this mind. I mean, not just a whole day, but this same exact mind, but with a European body. What would I have been able to do? I don't know. It's been a totally different trip, though, I think.
Yeah.
But in this body I have, uh, this is what I have to think about because this is what I'm in. The clothes I'm wearing. If it's all no green shirts in the world and your only shirt is green, you gotta start thinking about what you're gonna do about this shirt, don't you? My only shirt is green. You understand what I mean?
You know, well, I want to say that I'm glad, even though you were born in that body, you're definitely making the most of it. You're creating your own opportunities. You're doing the best with what you can do, even in bad situations, like with the Bad Brains, and you rebound, come back with Fireburn. So I have a lot of respect for all the adversities that you're overcoming.
Yeah, it's part of it. But again, I don't want to harp on that. I have done it, but I don't want to go on too long. It's part of it. You know, things like that make people feel maybe a little uncomfortable. But again, you people know I am not a negative person. I'm not a racist or not like that. You know, I love everybody out there. Every person I've ever encountered knows that. Whether you're black or white, they know that uh, I have my friends of all types. I just speak this way as a clinically, not as someone that's angry and rebellious. I'm looking at a problem and I'm trying to solve it, like a scientist does that, right?
Yep.
So, but anyway, back. All right, so let's now take in all of that.
All that.
Was all that. I was
Once more down the rabbit hole, but
right, all the way down. Now let's back on out again. We met a lot of rabbits today. We met a lot of rabbits. So I was in LA.
Yeah.
And all of that riding on my mind and on my back and being unsure of that and trying not to represent that like an outward, outward face.
Mm-hmm.
Because people can read your thoughts, man. You can walk into a room and really change it, especially me. I don't know what else people read me, but I'm like, I affect things. So I got to control my vibe.
Yeah.
I think we all do. So all of that riding on me, Norwood saw me playing on the promenade, and it was like, yo, man, like, wow, it's been like, and I have to always say in every interview, he was the one who pulled me out of the sleep I was in. He was the one who said he kept coming down many times to see me because he doesn't live too far from me. And somebody must have told him, yo, you don't believe what's going on. Came down many times and he talked to me and counseled me. It's like, yo, dude, what happened? First of all, he was like, what happened? Where were you? We've been looking for you. And I told him what I told you. And he was just like, but he was just like, you got to keep going. Because it's something. Rise is one of Bad Brains' dopest records. That's the first person I started hearing that from.
Yeah.
Really. And he was like, you need to know that. He was like, Israel, I don't mean that. He's like, he'd have conversations with me like, he's like, I need you. You need to know that. Dude, you work, man. That shit was dope. Cats were blown away by that shit. Because I told him, how I felt and how I like ran away from it. He's like, man, dude, you got the wrong impression, but you're here now and you got to keep going. And he pulled me out. He pulled me out. But that pulled me out to start seeking outward performing again. The first thing he did was tell me to come down to play in Trulio Disgracious. which was his band, which had been formed through the 80s. Parliament Funkadelic has been in this band.
Wow.
Fleet, everybody's been in this band. This band is a band of people, famous people. It's like a mix of people, but it just keeps going. It's called Trulio Disgracias. And they got songs, and Norwood ended up in it. Now he's like, people take lead, and I was the lead singer for a minute. And Norwood's always the lead, but he'd have me as his main second hype man for a minute. Like, I did that, man. That was awesome, bro. He took me back to the stage, and I didn't lose a beat. And I started playing with Trulio, and then I started looking for other things, man. And he brought me out of it. But I still was running away from Rise. And in 2007 or 6, I had a job with Greenpeace. And I was team leader, and I was not doing music, but I was out of my shell now, okay? And I'm like able to play and show up. But I'm not relying on music because music ain't pay me no money, So I'm like a team leader now. And I'm taking these cats upstate, and we're going upstate California to sign people up to save the world, save animals, save the whales. And so I did this for like a year, man, and was really good at it too. And one day I'm taking a team up with a bunch of younger people, and I'm sitting in the back filling out paperwork. A young dude says, "Yo, Israel, can I ask you something?" And I was like, "Dude, driving, right?" And I said, "Yeah, go, shoot, man. What's up?" He says, "Are you the Israel from Bad Brains?" And that was the first time in 15 years, my man, that I had even heard somebody mention that to me, man, or at least consciously heard it. Maybe I heard it, but I just ignored it. Actually, no, on a promenade, people were coming to me to get albums signed and to talk to me and ask. That was happening. When people started finding out I was there, they were bringing records. They were like, "Yo, what are you doing here?" I was like, "I'm working, bro. I gotta work." They were like, "Wow." Like, it was a trip, man. Yeah, the promenade was cool. That place put me back on. Between Norwood and all the people that recognized, that was cool. But I still was running away. And this dude was like, "Yo, my man, I grew up with Rise." I was like, "What?" He was like, "My older brother had Rise, and that's one of my favorite albums, man. I know all the words on that album." I was like, "Whoa, that's amazing." I was like, "That's great, man." I was a long time ago. I was like, "I remember blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Great." So I got back to my writing, and he goes, "I have it right here." And dude, I hadn't listened to Rise since 1994, and it was 2007.
Wow.
I was about to get a heart attack. My head, when I got like completely lightheaded, I was like, "No, you don't have to put that on." I was like, "That's cool though." And he was like, "No, dude." He's like, "I want to listen to this." And before I could say anything, man, he stuck that CD in the CD player and turned it up to 15, bro.
Yeah.
And at first I was mortified. I was like, "Here it comes." And it came. And I finally heard what everybody else heard. I finally heard that record from a distance. And this shit kicked my ass, bro. At times I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Yo." But I wasn't saying nothing. I was just like in my head, And I realized, yo, Rise is dope. That record is solid because he had a nice system in his car. I heard everything. It was crystal clear. So I was like, "This album is dope." So I started listening to Rise, and then I realized, I was like, "Yo, this album is dope. This album is Bad Brains. This is some Bad Brains shit." So it even took me, the singer, and I've talked about this in other interviews, after feeling all the weight of that pressure, while listening to it, some people had already been into. But after I realized that Bad Brains came to LA to play a show, and Norwood put us back together. He asked me to come down and talk to them because we hadn't talked because of everything that happened. So it was the first time I'd seen them in a long time. And we talked on the bus, and Daryl asked me to do a tour with them, and we did a tour in South America in 2008.
Wow.
Yep, that almost worked out to an album, but things didn't work out. So I came back and put out my record, Rod of Iron, which I had already had recorded. And that started me on a journey of making solo albums. So then I did Rod of Iron. I did Scarface, which is a record do
Is it Ghetto Folk? Was another one?
And then that was later, because after
Okay.
Scarface, I did Deeper Meaning,
Okay.
which was a hip hop album for 2008. And that is all rap, where I went back into my 1980s. I went back into my ability.
Can people still find these? Because I was looking for them online. It's I can find that on either iTunes or Spotify. Your solo.
I think they're still on there. Deeper
All right, good.
Meaning. Like you can look up Israel Joseph I Deeper Meaning on Google, and then it pulls it up on iTunes and Spotify. You could do the same thing for Rod of Iron. You could do the same thing for Reggae Rockers Rock Steady. You can do the same thing for Ghetto Folk.
Okay.
Ghetto Folk is mostly on SoundCloud though, because
Okay.
but Ghetto Folk is out on a label, so that's online. It's got a black cover with like script writing. You'll see it's like silver script writing. It says Ghetto Folk. All of these albums, mind you, I did after 2007, and I did them all on my own, all with no one's help, because I felt like I had no help. And I produced a lot of other songs too, a lot of independent records. Like I got a dancehall song, Love for City Girl when they in the club, Love for City when they rub up, Love for City Girl when they up the cup, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, back on the scene, go and come in, say you never look up at me, say you don't go black, young love it, babe. It's like a rap song. It's like boom, 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 but it's 1980, it's 2007, so it's like old school stuff, old school like rap music, but like hip hop, dance hall, and then like a lot of those type of singles, and then after that, like I said, I put out Ghetto Folk, which was 2012, and then then I had a hiatus because I was in a bad situation from 2016 to 2014 to 2017. I was in a bad situation. I was in a terrible relationship, and it was crazy, like rocky situation. But I survived that, and I put out in the middle of that, right before Fireburn, I put out an album called Reggae Rockers Rock Steady, but that's only on SoundCloud because of the situation. Laptop was stolen, a lot of but this is this is neither here nor there, so it's over. Then at that point, I got a message on Facebook saying Daryl Jennifer was having an art exhibit in 2017 at downtown LA, and I should come on and see it. And I thought it was from Daryl. At that point, we had to talk, but it turned out it wasn't from Daryl. It was from someone else. Daryl was surprised I showed up. And so at that time, when I was there, Todd Youth, rest in peace, was there too. Yeah. And he saw me there, and he didn't say anything to me, but he contacted me later on via email. I don't know how he got my email, Facebook. And he said to me, hey man, I got this music. And I saw you at Daryl's thing. I think, man, you'd be perfect to sing on this. Listen to these demo tapes. Tell me what you think. So I get a lot of this kind of stuff, or some of this kind of stuff from people from time to time, because people want me to sing on their stuff. And man, when I clicked open this music, I heard the demos to what would become the EP and some of the other songs. And I was blown away. I heard Suspect, I heard break it down, what would become those songs. They had no lyrics, they had no singer. They were just like demos that Todd did on his own with drum machine and the bass guitar, the guitars. He did all.
I have to say, I've been a fan of Todd for years. I mean, I used to see him with Murphy's Law all the time. I'm a fan of him with Warzone. I know he's played with Blood Clot. He's been around the scene since he was 13 years old. He's such a great musician, and it's so sad of what happened in 2018. But yeah, I'm so glad that you two finally connected. It was when I first read about that, I said that is such a weird connection. I was wondering how you hooked up, and now I know you were.
Well, he used to roadie for the Bad Brains
Yeah.
in 1981, 82, when he was 13 years old, because that's how he would get in. So he's known them since the 80s. Yeah. So when I joined Bad Brains, I met him. I met Todd back when I was 20. He had a little restaurant with his wife at the time, and I met him. Of course, he must have been much younger, and I was very ignorant to a lot of the hardcore scene, like I said. I was listening to hardcore, but I didn't spend time on the scene. And these cats, Todd is my age, but he started when he was 13. Cats on the hardcore scene are older than me, you know what I mean? I'm a cat in their late 50s. I'm in my early 50s. Keep that in mind, you know what I mean? These were bigger boys. I wasn't hanging out down with them. So I was knowing about Murphy's Law and knowing about what was going on. But knowing Todd Youth specifically and how I should have known him, yeah, I didn't know that when I met him. And I should have known that, but whatever. I later on figured all that out. But he said to me, he would say to me later that when we met, that he liked me a lot. And he never forgot me in those days, that he thought I was really talented and all of that. And that's why he's calling me, because he wants to see if I'm still doing like that, like still talented, still doing it like that. So I was like, man, I'm older now, you know, but I can see what we could do. So I took these demos and smoked some weed. And of course, you know, I was in the spirit, and I wrote Suspect in one turn, man. Wow. It was about, Suspect is about how come I'm the one that's in the age of Donald Trump. So Donald Trump is trying to rile up people against people that look like me.
Oh, yeah.
So the song is about that. The song is about corruption, nobody wins. He won the election. Corruption, nobody wins because he won, because now nobody wins. You think you win, but this guy's a violent, crazy man. It's like going to rile you up into like fighting each other. How can this be good? You know, some people supporting this and like, okay, so corruption, nobody wins. It's all the same. It's so lame. Nothing makes sense to my brain. All I feel is hurt and pain. Live in survival on arrival. I stay alive and go inside the furthest reaches of my mind. Life's a choice, and I made mine. That was by Bernie Sanders. That was literally by Bernie. I had chosen Bernie. Life's a choice, I made mine. Destruction of the right and the left took our future. Nothing's left. This is history's biggest theft. We're all alone. We got ourselves. That's how I really felt. When Donald Trump got elected, I felt all alone. At first, I liked Donald Trump. You know, when he first came, I liked it.
I never liked him. I always hated him, and I always will. But yeah,
I mean, for the first few weeks.
Yeah.
Not even past a month. I just thought this is what we need. I thought he and Bernie should get together and be the craziest ticket we could ever have. They would turn this place. They would. I really was for it. I was like, yeah, you want to turn it up. You want to do something that's going to change everything for the better. But then he opened his mouth.
Yes, that's all you needed. It was him to open his mouth.
He opened his mouth.
He thrives on chaos. He thrives on people being divided. It's pathetic.
I was just like, oh my God, dude, you're the worst. So I just totally jumped off that bandwagon as far as I could. I actually became anti-Trump, right? I was anti-Trump through the whole thing. If you look at anything I've ever done or said, it was the most fervent I don't hate him personally. I actually would probably sit down and have a conversation with Trump and have a few laughs and talk and like disagree and fucking like, you know, call him an idiot or whatever. But as a president, come on, dude, you're not the president. That's crazy. That's like, you can't be you can be a dude we talk, you can be a dude we disagree, you can be something else. You could be leader of your company. You could be Donald Trump, but Donald Trump cannot be the president. That's crazy.
No, I know.
So
I agree with
yeah,
you 100%.
yeah, you're too crazy. So the minute he opened his mouth, I was like, all right, I can't deal with this guy. So I was so upset by his presidency that it spat out the EP for the lyrics on the EP for
Don't stop the youth.
it was the lyrics. I mean, look, maybe I can climb the wall if I don't fall down. Maybe I can stand up tall if I don't fall down. Maybe I can stand up tall if I don't fall down. There must have been a heart in there, but now it's bled out. The world's going south. Everything's in doubt. Love is our light. Let this be. I was praying that we wouldn't go like with a wall and like fucking like I was praying like George Orwell's 1984's dystopian reality wouldn't come to. And I thought it was, and it did for a while. It did. We really lived in an authoritarian regime for a while. It's playing out on TV now. Right? It's crazy. They tried to overturn the government.
Oh, I know.
Israel wasn't that what Rise was all about. It's like, no, dude. You rise within, bro.
Yeah, no, exactly. You know what? There's a part of me that knows or thinks that he doesn't even believe half the stuff he knows what his base wants to hear. And whenever I used to always say this, he's so corrupt. Whenever he says something crazy and something offensive, that means he's hiding something. So he says, look over there, ignore this, so he's trying to divert people's attention. So he'll say something so stupid and that drives the left crazy. And I'm like, he's doing it intentionally because he wants you to ignore exactly everything he's doing, because then you'll be going crazy about transgenders, what he said about that, or what he said about racism. And I think everything he says is calculated, a lot of it anyway. He's crazy, but I think he knows
Or you can look at it like this, from that perspective you said is what a lot of people would say that maybe wouldn't see it from this perspective. Again, we'll get back to the racial perspective, okay? I have to look at it. I look at it from the eyes that I'm from the eyes I'm sitting behind, and look at how different it is from my perspective, and tell me if this makes sense. All I have to know about that is not what you said, which is what I know, and that's true, is being a prankster. But what I really have to look at and focus on, in his autobiography, Donald Trump stated explicitly that his favorite book,
Mein Kampf. Yeah, no, you know what? I did forget about that.
An all-time favorite leader. Come on. The guy, his family, and his dad was a Ku Klux Klan member.
Yeah.
And come on. And it's like, this thing again. Yeah. You see, it's like eyes.
Yeah.
This thing again makes me see it different. All I have to know is that. And then I have to look at what he is saying about race and go, the disguise is provocative. That's the disguise.
Yeah.
And the people who voted for you, or who don't really want to, or who can't, or who haven't seen the depths of it, can accept this disguise because that's what it looks like. But if you're forced to, which is why I always talk about this melanated consciousness, because some melanated people aren't conscious, so they're not forced to look at it. But if you're conscious and you're forced to look at it, then you must examine who this person saying this stuff is. And if they are, if Bernie Sanders were saying that, it'd be different, because you would look at his record and see he's just being flippant, because look, he's never stood for any of this. He's actually stood for the reverse, which would make it weird that Bernie Sanders would say that, which is why what he is saying is not calculated, because only he would say it. Why? Because he stood for that stuff in the past, which is why it would make it look ridiculous if Bernie Sanders said it. for that very reason. Because Donald Trump stood for that stuff. That's why this is ridiculous. Although you can, if you don't want to convict him of it, just say it's provocative.
Well, no, he is the world's biggest dirtbag. I will agree with you on that. Yeah, yeah.
He's a white supremacist. He believes that black people are functional, that people like me and darker are functional, that we are a necessary part of the world, but that ultimately Germanic Austrian people are the supreme intelligence and this planet. He's definitely subscribed to that.
Yeah.
It's not, and you know, it's not like he subscribed to it to the point where he's hanging people, man, or burning crosses, bro. He's not, I don't think he's about it like that. He's not like that. He has the more like what the average wealthy billionaire of his type has.
Yeah.
Just a given. They don't have to burn crosses. I mean, they're just like, haven't you seen history? I mean, haven't you seen God's picture? I mean, haven't you seen what we've created type attitude? Haven't you German engineering? You know, like, it's just like a given. Like, white people are superior. What are you thinking of? You know, like, yeah. But this is having, you can only have this kind of mentality if you ignore that whites were taught by the black cultures, and that Rome was not a civilization until 750 BC, and that England was not a civilization until 1080 AD, and that all the stuff that they talk about happened BC, so that there were no Europeans in the Bible. There were Romans in the New Testament. But in the Old Testament happened in North Africa.
Yeah.
I'll say that again. The New Testament happened in Palestine, where the Romans came in from Italy and ruled. The Old Testament happened in North Africa, Ethiopia, Egypt, Yemen, Sudan. Then they moved. Moses went down to Ethiopia, met Zipporah and married her, the daughter of Jethro. Came back north to Egypt to free the people. They circled and went north. But remember, when he went down, God said, in this mountain you will worship me. They never made it back down because they never were able to complete the laws. So he sent them up north. So they're in the wrong place. Yep. Zion is in Ethiopia with Jethro's son. Moses didn't go up north to tend sheep. He went south to Midian to tend sheep, to the land of Jethro, the Ethiopian. Numbers chapter 6, Moses married an Ethiopian. His sister and brother were mad at him. So Ethiopia is where that burning bush was. He lost the sheep in Jethro's land, and he went up in a mountain, and he saw the burning bush. And God said, in this mountain will your people worship me. They didn't go south, they went north. So Israel is the wrong place. They're there because it's Jerusalem.
Once again, I learned something new.
And so they were supposed to go south to Midian, which is province of Ethiopia. But this is why Haile Selassie, the Lion of Judah, comes out of Ethiopia. This is why King Solomon had a baby with the Ethiopian queen of Sheba, and this is why the ark was taken to Ethiopia. This is why in the beginning of Genesis, Ethiopia is the place that waters the garden. The river comes out of Ethiopia to water the garden. And if you look up Ashur, which is the other place it comes from, and the other Hiddekel in the Smith's Bible Dictionary, this all is referring to the land around Ethiopia. So the Garden of Eden is well known to be in the province of Ethiopia, but they don't want to tell you that. Mm-hmm. So I have to tell you then that God has complexion, that God is not just a random thing you can turn into any color or any race, that God made Adam out of the dirt of the ground, and he made him to look like him. Mm-hmm. So if Adam was made out of the dust of the ground, what color is dust? It's brown.
Yeah. Well, just like Jesus, he definitely was more brown. Like there was an article I read, they said he wasn't the white surfer dude from California they'd portray him as. He was definitely much darker, and he had dark features. So when people portray him as like, oh no, he's this long-haired white hippie, it's like, no, he wasn't. He was nowhere near that.
First of all, no one existed in that time that looked like a long-haired white hippie.
Yes.
Because the Vikings and the northern Europeans did not make their way south yet for 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't be in Europe for 1,000 years. The Romans wouldn't conquer them for 1,000 years. No one had ever seen a blonde person. In the Bible, in the book of Leviticus, chapter 13, it describes the treatment of leprosy. And it says, if a white patch shall, this is King James Version, shall evolve in the skin and there's no boils in it, then the person's clean. But if a white patch starts evolving in the skin and there's boils in it, you're unclean, you have leper, you got to leave the colony. If a white patch begins to evolve on the head and a yellow hair begins to, this is King James, bro. I am not talking about my words.
Oh, yeah.
A yellow hair begins to come out of this white patch. You have a deficiency, you have leprosy. This is in the I am not saying the Northerners were lepers. They are a different race with different deal going on, okay? This has nothing to do with what I'm speaking of. But how could this scripture describing this be describing the people it's describing?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean, if you're already blonde and white, then it wouldn't be saying you're turning blonde and white.
Yeah. I know.
So that's what I'm trying to tell you. That in the Old Testament, it happened in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And it's happening in North Africa. And it's happening with Black and brown people. But the 700 years between the destruction of Israel and Judah by Babylon and Jesus, races from more lighter races began to come to this mysterious land. Now, I'm going to also wake the matrix up now again. These are the people, hold on, don't get me preaching. I'm about to crack skulls with this. The tribe that God chose to bring the Messiah of the Son from is Judah. That's the son. There's 12 sons of Israel, 12 sons of Jacob, and all of them have a purpose, including Joseph, Asher, Simeon, Gad. All of them have a purpose. The purpose of Judah is to bring the kings. That's why he's the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah. That's why Jesus comes from the tribe of Judah. You have to have that bloodline to be a Messiah. You cannot be a Joseph Messiah, although you could be a Joseph high priest, but you cannot be a Joseph Levite and cut animals for the service of sins because you're Joseph. But you can't be a Levite and be a Joseph high priest because you have to cut animals for, on and on. So the Judahs bring the kings and bring the Messiahs. So who is the Messiah? Who we have hope in. The Messiah is who the hope of that religion is. The one that is the son of the Son, the Son of Man. The Son of Man, the light of the man light, the man son, the Son of Man, the man son, not the sky son. So Judah brings the man son. So between Solomon and Jesus, there was a place where the Babylonians destroyed Israel. Jerusalem was scattered. Their wares and their writings were taken all over, even unto India, to China, Japan. They were taken all over the world, man. And people got to be wondering about these people. So they started flooding into Jerusalem. It's when Jerusalem started becoming popular in this era between Solomon's temple and Jesus, the 750 years. And Ethiopians who had taken the ark around Solomon's time were also coming to Ethiopia during this time, 700 years. But they have little to do with this aspect of the story I'm telling you, because I'm telling you how the Jews came to be created. These people who were coming from other lands started coming from northern lands and Greece. And the first Roman adepts started coming into Israel to learn, or into, not Israel, because it wasn't called, it was called Palestine, to learn the ways of the Hebrew God.
because everybody's tired of Bacchus, and they're tired of Mithra, and they're tired, and they want Mithra to be born. They want to see the Mithra who's Jesus. You know, they eventually would say it's Jesus, but they want Mithra born. They're tired of the old pantheon of gods. They need to be free. And here's a free religion. Here's a Judaism telling you you don't need to service a bunch of gods. You can just do this law and you're all good with the heavens. That's very appealing because people don't have to, you know, go crazy no more, right? You don't have to serve 12,000 gods every day, wasting your time. That's what's good about monotheism. So that's why it was so popular. So people started coming to check this God, and that's when you get Socrates and Plato and Zeno and all the philosophers, because they was trying to figure it out. Like, what is Moses talking about? And is there really a God? Two camps began in this time, my brother. One was the philosophers, and the other was the Jews. And the Jew is the shortened form of the word Judah. And you're really Judah's. You belong, like you are property of Judah because you are not a Hebrew, because you're not African, you're not the bloodline, you're not from Ethiopia, you're not from Egypt, you're not from Midian, you're not African, but you believe in an African religion, a North African religion, and you really believe in it. You're really like stringent about it. You're keeping Sabbath. Okay. So what you can be, what you can say is that I believe in this old African religion, that the son of one of these people named Judah is going to bring the promised Messiah I believe in. Therefore, the person who I'm coming through to this old African religion is the man named Judah. Therefore, I belong to Judah. Therefore, I am a Jew. Therefore, I'm a Jewish. Therefore, I'm a Jew.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So these people that were not bloodline, that had nothing to do with Africa, like Armenians and Greeks and Romans, said, cool, we got a part in the covenant. We're not bloodline. We can't call ourselves Hebrews, but we're Jews because Judah adopted us. Get it?
Mm-hmm.
So for hundreds of years, they practiced this. And so when Jesus came into town, there was a lot of Jews, man. People from all over the place. The New Testament is full of Romans and Armenians and all types of people. Yeah, you're going to see people that would not have been considered white 150 years ago or 100 years ago in the New Testament, but are considered white now. Like there's some swarthy white people in the old days when I was young. They aren't white, they're Italian. I was young Italians that are considered white. Did you know that?
I've heard that before, yeah.
When I was young, Italians weren't considered white. They're Italian. They're not white.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know that? And did you know that when I was young, there was a word called Anglo-Saxon, which is not used anymore. Those were the only white people. Everybody else was either a European that's like Eastern European, and you're not white because you're Russian. And for some reason, when I was growing up, Russians weren't white. You were white, but you were like a swarthy white. You know, you were like a, you know what I mean? And the other Europeans too, like the Southern Italians. I grew up listening to all this on Long Island, you know, because maybe they didn't understand that who they were speaking to, you know, but I heard all of it, man, on TV and all that too. You hear it. It used to be in the sitcoms. It used to be discussed in the open. There were some whites who weren't white. The Irish weren't white for a while. They were slaved. They were called the N-words of Europe, right? Look that up. I'm telling you stuff that's new. Red hair is the thing they didn't want to mix with because all your children come out red hair, they used to say. Mm-hmm. So they used to say they have melanin, red melanin. The Asian has yellow melanin. You see, they running from melanin because the Anglo-Saxons don't have no melanin. And that makes him white. So this is who I grew up with, understanding was really white man, was the Anglo-Saxon. Now, so many people are white that I don't even know who's white anymore. Yeah. But I grew up, only white people were Anglo-Saxons. Everybody else was trying, you know, trying to hang in there.
But I think what happened over time, Anglo-Saxon numbers went down and they need to add to the team. So they were like, oh, we can induct Italians, we can induct other races that are light-skinned and call them white. And then call other people that have straight aquiline features and straight hair Caucasian. Asian, close to Asia. You're from the Caucasus part that's close to Asia. That means you're black. That means you're one of those black people, but they don't want to put you with Africans because that would make too much a majority. So they break them up and they say this is Caucasoid. No, white Europeans are Caucasoid. These are Caucasian. You see, the Indian, as black as this thing is a Caucasian. At least in the 20th century. I don't know how it is now. I'm trying not to think about all of it, but I'm telling you all this old knowledge that still seems to be relevant, but I'm trying to ignore it because it's sickening. Yeah. I'm getting too old, but I still know it. I'm not ignorant to it. I'm not blind. I didn't close my eyes and be like, oh, I'm going to ignore it and pretend it's not going on. Let's party. No, people are suffering behind this shit, and the suffering hurts me. It hurts my soul. And so the Caucasian is now called white. So you can go to, now. So now it's very diverse, and I think that Donald Trump is a prankster, but he's a prankster because he has white privilege.
Oh yeah.
Black people can't be pranksters because if you go toilet paper someone's house, they're gonna arrest you. Mm-hmm. If you go put flaming bag of shit on someone's doorway, the cops are gonna shoot you, bro. That's like a crime.
Yeah.
But white kids can get away with that. See, there's white privilege, and I'm just using an example. And Donald Trump is such a rich white man that he understands white privilege as he understands his personality. He's just him. That's what he is.
Yeah.
So for him to say things he says, like Mein Kampf is my favorite book, and Hitler is a great leader, but I don't admire him because of what he did to the Jews. But he was such a great leader, fantastic, and really knew how to control people. From the standpoint of a melanated person who would have certainly been put in the ovens in the days of the Nazis, that's freaking scary.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. So I definitely. You and I are completely on the same page.
I know. I'm not talking to you. I'm just making a generalized point. And to a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people that watch this, I am telling you, I understand you guys agree. I know this is a small minority of folks that would think on the other side, but I'm sure everybody's sensible and understands what I'm saying.
I would hope so. And we've been talking for 5 hours. I hate to do this. I have to wrap it up, so I have some things to do. But I want to have you back on the show because we barely scratched the surface. I still have a lot of other things I wanted to talk about, and so what I could do is
call me this weekend.
Yes, I'm going to do that. What I'm going to do is we'll set up a date, but just right now, tell people where they can find you, and like where they can find your music, where they can find you if they want to. Like is it Facebook, Instagram? Do you have a website?
Guys, I love you, man. So if you want to follow me, please support an artist that is totally independent. I literally work and pay for all of my endeavors myself. And I try and don't depend on people for borrowing money and stuff like that, and record labels. So if you can help me out by following me, if you want to buy records, great. But just please follow me. There's a number of sites I'd like you to go check out. The first one is Israel Joseph 1, the number 1, .bandcamp / follow me. So it's my name, Israel Joseph, and the number 1 .bandcamp.com / follow me. And if you go there, you'll find my page for my latest album, Meltdown, which has got a lot of fierce funk hardcore, funky hardcore that you will love. And it's really got some reggae and some fierce music. The other site that's available all online across iTunes and Apple Music and such, if you're into that, is israeljosephi.here now. That's here like HEAR, here now.com / israeljosephi.herenow.com / that'll get you to your mainstream out of Bandcamp. The first one was Bandcamp, like I said, but that one's your mainstream. Now, I also have the albums on YouTube or online, which are the albums we mentioned: Ghetto Folk, Deeper Meaning, Rod of Iron, Reggae Rockers Rock Steady, a lot of my SoundCloud, of course, and the albums I did with Fireburn. The records I did with Fireburn are all on YouTube. So just look up Fireburn, one word. Don't Stop the Youth, Controller. The song I feel is dedicated to all people, which is Out of Many One, my favorite Fireburn song personally. The lyrics are what I'm all about, man. And then, as of late, I've started a university of my own. I've always wanted a place to teach a lot of the knowledge that I've learned over the years. So I started a university, and I'm going to put these glasses on real quick because the light is dim in here. They're not glasses, they're magnifiers actually, but they're pretty cool. So where you're going to go and check me out is Sevenaria. Sevenaria is a word I invented, Sevenaria, like aria, like the song. It's a reduction of two words. Sevenaria is the name of the university, Sevenaria University. So you're going to go to sevenariauniversity@gmail.com to email me. If you want to check me out on YouTube, we're putting out videos. It's brand new. You're going to see a lot of videos coming out of the university teaching you a lot of important information, curious information, cryptic information, stuff you don't know. You can go to YouTube and check us out at Sevenaria@youtube.com. That's Sevenaria@youtube.com. And then there's the Facebook, which is simply Sevenaria University. Again, Sevenaria, Sevenaria University. And there's really where I hope that the future will begin. I have a new album coming out. It's called Journey to the Land of the King. And it's with my friend Amlak, who's a great reggae artist himself. Fakir Amlak, you can look him up. He's a golden voice, but he also makes music. And he made me 12 songs, which I've sung lyrics on. It's called Reggae Rockers Rock Steady. It's called Journey to the Land of the King. That's my own record. And Journey to the Land of the King is coming out. So please look forward to that, because it's got great music. It's all steppers. It's all like really good hard reggae. So that's coming. And we got a lot more things coming up too, man. I've got new music that I haven't released, rock and roll that I haven't released, punk from the last 14 songs from the last set of recordings I did. I just haven't had a chance to do vocals because honestly, I'm in a place where I can't scream. And that's held back the record I've done since Meltdown, which is even, I think, crazier. There's a lot more solos. There's a lot more great music, but I can't release it. I don't have any place to do vocals. So all of that's coming, people, and more. I hope to live. I hope I stay alive. You know, John Lennon was a good man, and he tried, man. But Sirhan, you know, man, people like that. So I'm trying to avoid any of that in my life and just be a good person. Although I speak about controversial things, I hope you guys understand. And I thank you for listening to this interview. We're going to do it again real soon.
Yeah.
I'm thanking Rich, because Rich is the man. I guess it's down there. You guys are looking, or over there, or up there, wherever he is. Right. Thank you so much, Rich. And thank you all for checking out the interview. Peace, love, and blessings to you all, man. Guidance and protection. One love.
Rastafari. And like I said, I'm going to have you back on. We're probably going to break this down into either 2 or 3 episodes. So what we're going to record probably this weekend or sometime next week will be either part 3 or part 4, but either way, I still have more to talk about. I still want to talk about Fireburn and some things after that. And we're going to go down the rabbit hole probably 3-4 more times. And I look forward to that. So until then,
let's talk about aliens and UFOs and the Anunnaki and all that stuff, man. Let's bring it all to them, man.
I better take a week off. And I better take another week off. Yeah, just so I can do this interview because there's way too many things to talk about. That wraps up the latest episode of the Claus Corner. A huge thanks goes out to singer, songwriter, instrumentalist, live performance artist, producer, photographer, artist, writer, and Ja Warrior, Israel Joseph I would also need to thank John Bristol from Elmwood Productions for always doing a superb job editing this program each and every week and making it available for everyone. And lastly, but definitely not least, I need to thank you, the viewer, for always tuning in. Enjoy your day, everyone. All right.
That was awesome.
From the frenetic mind of author Rich Sear. 5 terrifying short stories, now available in one collection. Confessions of a Frenetic Mind. 5 tales of blood-curdling terror, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
All of a sudden I hear, brim, brim. What's a diaphragm again? Ha! We caught one. They're supposed to be weird.
Oh, yeah, no. If you say so.
I've always wanted to be in a movie.
Waiting around for autumn, waiting around for autumn.